Shaykh Uthman here is talking about the human body to promote his beliefs. Let's see if he says anything of interest or if he will just repeat previous misunderstandings.
COVID and Corona, if it didn't teach us anything, it should teach us the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This virus enters your body learns how to fight it. It figures it out without you doing anything. If a virus enters my phone, it doesn't fight it by itself. If I drop this phone and it cracks, it doesn't heal itself.
Whether deliberately or not, he portrays a very simplified description of an organism's immune system. The system evolved over time, learning to deal with pathogens and other threats. If the immune system did not evolve, living organisms would not survive to pass on their genes. There was no initial programming in of an immune system. This is in no way analogous to a mobile phone, which we know is created by people with code inserted to act as an antivirus.
So if this cannot come by itself, how can an atheist say that this body, that this universe, that this planet, that this balance, that this perfectly designed human being...
You don't get to say it's designed until you can demonstrate this. We know objects such as cars and buildings are designed because we have examples of this. We have no examples of living organisms being designed or that there is a designer. What we do have is evidence of natural selection and evolution causing the appearance of design. You talk about a perfect human body, in which case please explain to me allergies and also autoimmune diseases, and how do they fit in with the idea of a perfectly designed human body?
Animals in a perfect balance. Look, how do we breathe in oxygen and put out carbon dioxide? And how animals, they breathe in oxygen and put out carbon dioxide. But plants, they take in carbon dioxide and put out oxygen. If either balance is gone, we couldn't survive.
Plants are much older than animal life. They performed photosynthesis, in which oxygen was just a waste product. Animals later evolved using this oxygen for metabolism. Plants don't need animals, but animals need plants. There is no perfect balance that was designed.
Our hearts, they pump blood in the exact equal amount necessary for energy that is exerted.
The heart and the circulatory system work very well to supply the body with its energy needs, but not perfectly. Diseases impact on this, not just ones that you accumulate through age, but also congenital diseases with which some babies are born. How is this evidence of good design?
All of us sitting here right now, our hearts are pumping blood. Who's even thinking about that?
Nobody needs to think about this. The heart is connected to the nervous system, which receives signals from the heart. There are cells in the heart that have automatic electrical action potential, so there is constant electrical activity and nerve stimulation. Diseases such as heart block and arrhythmias occur when there is a disruption to this mechanism.
Who makes it that kidneys and livers all function in a perfect manner for you to function? How can you say that this came from nothing?
They don't work in a perfect function all the time. That's how diseases happen. They work well enough to allow an organism to pass on its genes. Evolution selected for better functioning organs, the DNA of which is passed on to offspring.
How can an intelligent human being ever imagine that? If we look at the one-way valve of our stomach, it prevents influx of digested food. Otherwise, that food you eat would be coming back up.
This is what happens in reflux disease, a common condition.
Towards the canal to take food out. Imagine if that muscle wasn't made to control, you would be walking and waste would be trailing behind you.
This is indeed what happens when people have a disease of their anal sphincter.
So who made this system?
The correct answer is not who made the system, as this presupposes a who, but rather, how did the system arise?
The skull bone, you see the skull bone of children before they go through the birth canal, it's unfused. It's put where it's softer and put together. Otherwise, as doctors and scientists tell us, the child would not be able to come out from the canal.
The bones in the skull of a fetus mould to allow it to pass through the birth canal. This does not happen all the time, and sometimes a caesarean section is needed. Before this operation was available, the baby and the mother often died. Now science allows both the baby and the mother to survive.
How can evolution explain that?
I already have, but to recap, evolution selects for traits that offer a survival advantage. There is no perfection. There is no prior design. Evolution tinkers with what is already there, giving an illusion of design.
Evolutionists tell us that the body evolved to necessity. So there was a time when you didn't have these functions, and then it evolved to necessity, to adapt to its environment. Okay. If the first children didn't have this function of the unfused skull, they couldn't have been born. And if they were born without this function, then that would have never evolved.
Some would have been born with an unfused skull. Some would have been born with a fused skull. Some would have died. Those born with an unfused skull would be more likely to survive and therefore pass on their genes. That's how it would have evolved to become what's normal in humans.
Either way, evolutions are proven wrong.
Haha, no, I suggest you learn about science.
Then, if we look at the nerve endings that we have, that send a signal that is covered at, like you see the wires that we cover. So the electric signal is not lost. Before that step in evolution, we could not have sent that signal to muscles. You couldn't have operated. And if it operated before, then it would not have evolved. Either which way, they cannot answer these questions.
Nerves have a covering called a myelin sheath. This lets them transmit signals more efficiently. Nerves can still send signals without a myelin sheath, but much more slowly. Evolution would therefore select for a basic rudimentary sheath, which is then improved over time. I hope this explains this well to you. Overall, this is a clear science fail for Shaykh Uthman.